Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Jennifer Fondrevay with me here today. Jennifer is the founder of M&A Consultancy, Day1 Ready, Management Director of Human Capital for Virtus Partners, and best-selling author of Now What? A Survivor's Guide for Thriving Through Mergers and Acquisitions. As a former global executive, she has been on all sides of the deal equation. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Tim.
That's a lot of interesting stuff there. I'm sure there's a lot to unpack. You want to fill in some of the highlights there on your background and how you got to where you are at now?
Sure. I would say to start off, I'm a recovering chief marketing officer. Anyone who's dealt with marketing knows that it can be the most thrilling aspect of a job and demanding. And as part of being a marketing executive, I went through 3 multi-billion-dollar acquisition deals, and my experience through that is what brought me to M&A. It's why I work in that capacity now. Never imagining that I would be in M&A because I suck at math. That was not my favorite class in grad school. So the fact that you're even introducing me as a M&A advisor sometimes makes me laugh because it was a circuitous path to get here.
Well, that's sometimes where we're meant to be, though. If you didn't think it was an option, and that's you end up there anyway. Imagine your skill sets have grown pretty well in that space.
Well, they have. What I would say, particularly because to your point, the job that I do doesn't really exist in M&A, right? I focus on the people strategy of a merger and acquisition. So, for instance, if you've got a founder, an entrepreneur who's he or she is thinking about at some point exiting, what they tend to usually think about first is how much money, right? What can be the value? What's my multiple? And so I will be that advisor that says, if you want your legacy to live on, think too about the people. What's the people strategy piece of your business? What's the culture that you want to retain? So whether you get acquired or you exit, if you want your legacy to live on, you need to think through the people piece of your business. And that's often, it's not what people think about, right? They get their wealth manager, their financial advisor, accountant, lawyer. I'm the human capital advisor who really helps businesses be smart about retaining the value of that business by focusing or equally focusing on the people piece.
Right. And that I've seen so many companies fall apart, right? The culture does after the acquisition or after a transaction like that and particularly is that, maybe you can speak to that and how things have changed and how they're changing in the future for getting different generations in the workplace right now to stay focused and aligned with the new ownership.
I think it is changing, sometimes for the better, sometimes not. The good things that I'm seeing is, and I don't know if it's generational, or it could be follow on from the pandemic where people started to recognize
societal norms have changed, right?
Right. Well, and they also, I think there was a recognition of the importance of your employees to keeping your business running. And so the upside that I've seen, or I should say the consequence of that for M&A is particularly middle market businesses. Those leaders, CEOs, business owners have appreciated the role that their people play in not only keeping their business going, but growing the business. And so I'm encouraged by that. I've had more CEOs of middle market businesses reach out to me to be advised on how do I need to think about this when I do ultimately exit or I do acquire another company or I get acquired, right? Because they all have slightly different strategies and variables, but I'm just encouraged by the number of of CEOs and business owners who are intentionally building a strategy around the people piece of their business.
That's interesting. I had somebody on a few episodes ago talking about an investment banker who offers ESOPs to people here. Do you see a lot of those sort of that for our viewers? Those are employee stock option programs or something, right? It's sort of a legacy plan to be able to let the current culture and employees of a business stay kind of in place while through a disposition.
I'm starting to see it a bit more, not enough to consider it a trend, but I am encouraged that more owners are getting smart about the benefit of an ESOP, and particularly if they've already established a really good culture in their business and have acknowledged the role that their employees play.
Right.
That's where I've seen it really be beneficial.
I imagine there's different sizes where this more the smaller, maybe middle size, where the owners have more of a relationship with their employees and they
Right.
care about their well-being maybe a little bit more than the big conglomerates or something where you're just a cog in the wheel type of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For our viewers who may be interested, that was Abram Villegas' episode a little while ago.
Love that I can build on a prior episode.
Right? Yeah. Can you share an instance that significantly contributed to your success in your industry?
Yeah. Well, again, for me, the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing now, we joked earlier on. So I went to Thunderbird in Glendale, and I went to Thunderbird. For those who don't know, it's an international business school. Was in
Very,
Glendale and
very,
was
very
led
well
by.
known, very, very impressive school.
Yeah, and I wanted to be the ambassador to France. That was my that was my goal going to Thunderbird. My father's French. I grew up speaking French, spent my summers in France. It's funny that my first job coming out of Thunderbird though was in advertising. And my dad is the one who's joked, I think that ambassadorship is still possible. You're just on a very circuitous path, Jennifer. And for me, that initial education, I'm thankful for in ways now that I see. I don't know if I realized it back then, but going to Thunderbird, it's because it's an international business school, you have people from all over the world going to the school. Right. And so I had to learn really early on. I thought I already had, cultural sensitivity because I was half French, but doing class projects with someone from Greece and someone from Singapore, and another person from the Middle East, you have to be open to other people's points of view, curious about their perspective. And it made me a much better leader earlier in my career because I already had that sensitivity. So for me, I will say I'm thankful for that original education. That was a big, even though I recognized it later, the seeds were planted at that stage, and just being open to diversity of thought has made not only me a better leader, but my end products, when I was in a corporate career in particular, were much better, right? Because I had a team that was invested in it because we listened to everyone's points of view before moving forward. So that's been a key contributor to success.
Okay, that's possibly why you appreciate and focus on culture so much to preserve it moving forward. Absolutely. And the importance of it.
Absolutely. And it's funny. I mean, the reason why I got into the people part of mergers and acquisitions is after those 3 multi-billion-dollar deals that I was part of, I thought there has got to be a better way of doing M&A where the people part of the equation is central to the strategy. It's not an afterthought. And so I actually just wrote an article recently for Harvard Business Review on that point, right? M&A should be transformational, not transactional. And it was largely because of my perception of culture, the importance of understanding culture when you're bringing companies together and how to make that successful. And I attribute that not just to my upbringing, but the time I spent at Thunderbird.
Are there hard metrics you can point to or quantify to help sell that to people, the significance of it, not just in the first quarter after an acquisition, but like, track it over the next couple of years, and how important it is to keep the culture of the company going properly?
Well, the two metrics that I use, well, there's three, but two in particular that CEOs and business owners are always interested in. One is retention,
Right.
retention of your employees. And a big part of that is, it's not just because oftentimes I feel business owners feel their key talent are the loudest ones, right? They're part of their leadership management. They're the people who they see daily helping drive things. But I'll always say to them, well, they are critical for sure, but you have top talent, particularly if your business has been doing well, you have top talent throughout your ranks. And it's important for you to understand the layers of top talent. Don't assume your top talent is just the
Top
leadership,
20%.
right? It's being aware of that. So when I say retention, it's not just retention. And I say this as someone who was an executive. Now, granted, I was in multi-billion-dollar deals, so I had the retention package, the bonus, stay by so many years, and,
Right.
you get the bonus. But in middle market businesses, when you're doing a merger and acquisition, being aware of who your talent is throughout your organization is critical as you move forward. And being smart about the players and the role that they play can be critical to your success. And so retention and, frankly, attraction of new talent, right? Those two metrics, because oftentimes, as you probably know, Tim, M&A has negative baggage attached to it.
Sure.
The moment someone says, "Oh, our company's going through a merger and acquisition,"
Sure.
your instinct is usually to say, "Oh God, good
Yeah.
luck."
Polish up my resume.
Hope you survive, right? That's the typical reaction. And so attracting talent
Sure.
in that time frame can be difficult.
Sure. Well, it is an opportunity to clear out some of the deadwood right
Yes.
away. But yeah, as you said, sort of the contracts to incentivize people to stay past the 6 month, the 12 month, the couple of years down the road. I've seen a few of those now where my wife was one of them, right? Private equity comes in, and they part of their plan is to minimize a lot of the roles that they already have covered elsewhere, right? And a lot of the team mindset goes away, and now you're just a number, and people don't work together as well anymore, and revenue the company suffers.
Right. But you're outlining exactly what I see happen repeatedly. And so, your original question, what are the metrics you use? I love the fact that you said the team spirit goes away, right? So when I'm talking about retaining your talent and attracting talent, right? That's so that you have that team working well together.
Right.
And the benefit of that, right? That team staying together, attracting new talent to innovate even more, is a critical metric. And you don't just hit that metric naturally. It just, and that's why all the time when I talk with private equity, that doesn't, just because you have a great team now doesn't mean it's going to be a great team after. You have to intentionally have a plan around it to make sure you retain that in order to be successful. So retention of talent and attraction of talent, and then productivity. You may have your own perception of this given what your wife's going through, but productivity tends to drop off a cliff because everyone's waiting to see what happens.
Right.
And I've seen with private equity in particular, it's an adjustment period. Working under private equity is a different dynamic than they may have been used to when it was just family owned or a different business.
Yeah. For sure. Your retention comment reminded me though, right? It's as you said, there's nuances. You have to know who you need to keep. And there's a guy here in Scottsdale, author I really like, Lee Benson. Are you familiar with him? He has a book called Most Important Number, and it's a way of simplifying KPIs for certain areas, right? Because like for a lot of companies like HR, it's retention, they say, oh, I want to keep people around. It's like, is it? Because you can have nobody leave in 3 years and the company fail. So was that really the most important number? Right. So, yeah, having the proper tracking metrics for each subsection or department and stuff is
well, and it's an excellent point, and that's why I bring it up, right? And that's why I emphasize the point. Retaining your top talent, the top talent isn't necessarily, again, the loudest people in the room, the
right.
ones who you've seen in your leadership meetings, and it's incumbent on you as the leader, the business owner, CEO, to know, okay, who really are the people that make this company hum, that make our product, service, or solution
Right.
the quality product service solution that it is. And so I work with leaders to make sure they know who they are. And I can't tell you how many times they've been surprised, right? That it could have been, the customer service center person who runs a tight ship and how they handle those calls and how they train the people to do it. That's what has given them the quality rating, right? It's just there's sometimes for me it's a wonderful part of the job is to help them realize how many different rock stars they may have in their company.
Right. Right. How would you describe your leadership style? And can you provide an example of how it helps you navigate some of these M&As?
It's interesting, and we touched on it at the beginning. And it's people have told me this is my leadership style.
Okay. So it must be true.
Well, no, it's just because I don't think I find that I'd be hard pressed to know what my leadership style, because it's just how I operate. It's how I see things need to be done.
Right.
And
A good leader can change their style depending upon the situation.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely, you need to be able to pivot. I write about that a lot. And the leadership style, it was honed. The one that I'm most proud of, it was honed when I was in corporate. I lived abroad for 3 years. I kind of became a ambassador France. Kind of, sort of, because I lived in Paris, France for 3 years. I was the head of marketing at a company called Navtech, Navigation Technology. So now,
Okay.
you've got maps in your car, probably on your phone for sure. You use that map to get everywhere, and it could be powered by Navtech map data. But when I worked at the company, it wasn't ubiquitous like it is now, and so I had the privilege of being part of launching that product in Europe and then globally. And I had a global team. And in order to get people who were in Singapore and Latin America and Europe all on the same page, you really have to be intentional as a leader, to include people. And so, I just remember one time I had my team in Germany and France and Britain and UK and then Singapore and the US. We were all on a call. And I made sure that everyone had a chance to contribute and pulled their comments before we made a decision. And had several members of my team afterwards say, "You are the only leader I have ever worked with that makes sure everyone gets their point of view, they get to weigh in, but then after that we execute." And I remember thinking, well, how else would you do it? Like, who's gonna buy in if I just say
with an iron fist?
Right, exactly. Here's the mandate. Now go make it happen. So I say it was through that experience, and again, I'll take it back to Thunderbird, just having that multicultural sensibility to say, well, I find that if you get multiple points of view, it'll make you think about your decision differently. And in my case, it's always made it a more informed decision. But the other benefit is that people are bought in. Even if it wasn't their recommendation, they know they've been heard. And for me, that's a critical piece of being a good leader, right? Have people feel heard, but then, you all got to commit and make it happen.
Right. Is that a big part of the training at Thunderbird? Is the interpersonal communication and the social aspects?
I wouldn't call it training. I think it's just an absolute
Embedding the culture of the.
It's part of the culture, right?
Okay.
Because you're just dealing with people from all over the world,
Right.
and it's part of the DNA. It's why I wanted to go there from the age of 8. And
Wow.
well, there's a story attached to that. So
I like stories.
I'll tell it very quickly. Because my father was French, he worked at the French embassy in Chicago for a period of time, and we were at a party. I think the babysitter didn't come or something, so my mom and dad took me to this party with a backgammon set. My dad had taught me how to play backgammon, and so I was over in a corner, set up with my little backgammon set. And my dad, I didn't know this until later, kept sending people over to say, "Oh, will you play with my daughter?" And he would bet them money. He'd say, "Oh, and I bet you $10 she wins." Apparently, my dad made a lot of money off of my backgammon prowess. But one guy came over, and he said, "Do you mind if I play backgammon with you?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so we started talking, and he asked me, "Oh, do you speak French? I know your father's French." And I said, "Oui, je parle français." I was so proud. And he said, "Oh, you should think of going to Thunderbird." Because he was going to Thunderbird at the time. And this is probably in the early 70s. And so apparently
Okay.
on the car ride home, I announced to my mom and dad that I was going to Thunderbird. And
Nice.
I kept to that commitment.
I've met a number of people from there. I've been very impressed with all of them. Everybody I've met from there has been very. One Ash Shaw is
Yeah.
actually he's not just Ash.
Yeah. He was in my class.
Really? Okay. Yeah, he's great. He had a disposition as he sold his manufacturing and does a lot of real estate now. And we're partnered on the series of townhome communities we're building here in Phoenix as well. So
How funny. Yeah. He's a very good guy.
yep, yep. So that's fascinating stuff. So sounds like business is going well. This is the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast. So I do like to see about where you're going, right? How you're keeping that prosperity moving forward, and what sort of plans, legacy plans you have for you and or your business.
So one of the things that has been invaluable is just meeting business owners, CEOs who they may not even be in a merger and acquisition now, but maybe contemplating it. And that, frankly, for me is the joy of having those conversations, because it gives me the opportunity to open their eyes to not just the financial aspect, but the legacy aspect,
Right.
the culture aspect of business. There's a reason why CEOs call me an M&A whisperer, right? To me, it's just an opportunity to make them smart. Maybe as part of their succession planning, they've already thought about the fact that, okay, by X date, I want to retire. So talking that through, what does that succession plan look like?
Right.
Who are your candidates? Thinking about that now, what's the culture of the company, and do you want to retain that as the company continues? Having those thoughts now makes for your approach to a merger and acquisition much more informed. And so for me, I would highlight that as a big part of getting to know people here in Phoenix, because my business is international, but there's nothing like face to face.
Right.
And Phoenix is just booming, right? The
Yes, it is.
tech space coming in. You have so many more entrepreneurs. ASU, I think, has done a fabulous job of really cultivating innovation and entrepreneurship. So those are the conversations I would welcome.
Yep. And the state's been pretty business friendly to date.
Absolutely.
So yeah, things are booming for sure. That's one of the reasons why we have a focus here as well, because there's people living here, and they need a place to live when they move here. It's
Right. Oh yeah.
growth is incredible.
What's it? I think we've now ranked the number five city in terms of
Yeah, the Phoenix
populous.
MSA is, I think, the 5th largest
Yeah.
in the country. So I was going to ask you about impact, right? So I mean, often your impact, I imagine, is largely on the employees and the people left behind after these. How do you think about it?
Well, I look at it on both ends of the lens. The impact with leaders, the CEOs and founders, helping them think about a part of their business that they may not have naturally, and then
Or
realizing,
just see it from a different point of view as well.
yeah, right. Because I said, and I get it. I mean, business is, you're thinking about what's the transaction, what's the value,
Right.
what's the multiple. And so I'll say though, when you think about this, you want to think about, particularly if you founded this business, what's the legacy? So helping leaders think more sharply about that and intentionally, for me is one of the huge benefits. It's the reason why I got into this, because I'm a former chief marketing officer. I'm still thinking about being ambassador of France. So why would I get into mergers and acquisitions? It's to help those leaders be smarter about it. And then the employee piece, the employee side of it, to help those employees. That's what my book's about, right? Is to help them identify and recognize, why they're having the emotions that they're having. I call it the M&A stages of grief. You can go
Okay.
through that, but how do you get to the other side? Because the sooner you get to the other side, the sooner you get to acceptance in those stages of grief, the more opportunity you will see. So I really try and play a role on both ends of the spectrum, helping leaders be smarter as well as employees in the organization see the upside and understand the role that they can play and how they can contribute.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you. So in closing up our little chat here, I wanted to ask you, what do you wish you knew early or sooner about building wealth and success in your career?
Be ready to play the long game, which I kind of knew. And I will say this, and it may for any founders or entrepreneurs with an idea, it could be an amazing idea, but you have to have the patience, certainly the capital and the runway to let your idea really come to fruition, and be able to capitalize on it. Mergers and acquisitions, it's a multi-trillion-dollar business, but the role that I play is one small part of a massive ecosystem. And so just being ready to play the long game and being very clear on the value that you add to any business.
And working with people as a team, right? And that long game is requires a lot of players.
Yes. Like I said, I'm part of a massive ecosystem.
Right.
The greatest benefit that I've had is because of my marketing skills. The book that came out, I write a lot for Harvard Business Review and Fast Company and Forbes. So getting the message out there has been critical to being out there. But it's people who, my team is not, I don't have a business team. My team are all the people who champion the work that I do to help raise my awareness.
Right. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So for our listeners who want to learn more about you and connect, where can they find you?
Two places, really. One, my website, which is very simple. It's jenniferjfondrevay.com, and which you may need to spell in your liner notes or something.
Oh, yes.
Get tripped up with the name Fondrevay. And same thing, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I put my articles there, but have great engagement from people who follow me. So those would be the two places.
All right. Excellent. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Jennifer J Fondrevay for joining me today. We appreciate you sharing your story and your insights into success in this crazy and beautiful world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.